You're probably wondering why we're dressed like this.
I know we certainly are.
Well, it's because it's Christmas, and we're talking Die Hard. Last year we talked about our top favourite Christmas movies.
Yep.
And the number one was Die Hard.
A lot like a lot of other people out there who love Die Hard and love Christmas, and the two of them just work wonderfully together. I mean, it's a quintessential 80s action movie. It really wraps up so much of what was going on and really kickstart an entire genre of its own.
John McTiernan, fresh off of shooting Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, made this movie the very next year. He used cinematographer Jan de Bont, who's a great director in his own right, and he brought a European style to an American movie, and I think the combination of those two different styles made it what it was.
It definitely has a very unique look of its own, and it did a wonderful job of just looking unlike anything else that was out there.
Absolutely, the fluidity of the shots, the pacing and the editing of that movie as well is really, really good. It has a rhythm to it. It moves along really nicely.
Drop it, dickhead. It's the police.
It is an action picture, but there's some really nice twists in there and subtleties. If you take a look at the character of John McClane, for instance, he does pretty much everything he can to avoid confronting the terrorists. He's not like the sort of action hero that you associated with the 80s.
Yeah.
He was actively trying to avoid getting caught and try to keep out of it and get other guys in, call the police to be able to come in.
Yeah.
He knows he's got limited resources.
Yeah.
He's got to play smarter rather than harder.
Thanks for the advice.
Great casting of Bruce Willis, of course, fresh off of Moonlighting. He was shooting Moonlighting at the same time. This was his first movie, wasn't it? Really?
It's certainly the first movie that he was headlining.
Yeah.
We've seen the character change over later films to become, this real old-style action hero, super cop, invulnerable guy. But in that first movie, we were established a guy who had real problems.
Yep.
He had real relationships with other characters. And you saw him change and grow throughout the whole story. You saw him sort of spiraling down as the situation got worse and worse. But, that's the real humanity with dark humour in there, which was funny enough, but not over the top in terms of its humour, that it worked so brilliantly to sort of gel that story together.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Let's talk about Alan Rickman. Wonderful British actor, came in and played Hans Gruber, a German terrorist, but not a terrorist, and his group of cronies, who were all male models or something at the time, I think. Well, half of them were. A mishmash of Euro trash bad guys. Wonderful.
But the best-looking group of terrorists you've ever seen on film.
Wearing Gucci
and
all that stuff. And they were cool. The weapons they had were cool. Their tactics were cool. And it's not like a modern movie, or even movies before that. Like Commando must have had like 200, 300 bad guys that Arnold mows down. In this movie, it's like 12 terrorists. It's a small number, but enough to...
It's a definable number that you can actually define who it is that he's fighting against.
Yeah, it really creates an interesting challenge for John McClane to overcome. But John McClane is the fly in the ointment.
Yeah.
He's the one thing that really ruins their whole plan.
Welcome to the party, pal!
One of the nice things that I think they do with just the simple fact of sitting inside a skyscraper is they help establish the geography of where the action is happening really quickly and really easily.
And the sort of limitations as well of the environment. He's up high, so he can't just sort of jump out of the window and escape.
Yeah.
He's trapped in there.
Yeah, and you can easily tell when you're in sort of his areas. They're the ones which are under construction and are unfinished, and you see the tools all around and the unfinished areas, whereas the terrorists control everything underneath, and you can see they're sitting around in furnished offices and boardrooms and all that sort of thing.
I love the 80s practical effects. I love guns. I love explosions. I love rocket launchers and APCs. I love blood squibs and bursts and all of that stuff. It's just awesome. There's a few optical effects in the movie, but they're really limited, and when they are used, for many years afterwards, you wouldn't even have known that certain shots had opticals to them. They were done to enhance the shots of the scene, so done really well, but for the most part, in camera, real. All of the explosions in the interior and exterior of the building were all full scale, real fireball explosions, so awesome. I love that sort of filmmaking. It's real grounded, down to earth, real practical, hard work.
even some of the work that they did with models in it, again, you're photographing something real. It has this weight to it that you don't really quite get in the CG era. So really it was the epitome of 80s action.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Hans Gruber is one of my favourite bad guys from the 80s.
He's one of the greatest villains in all of cinema history.
He is nasty. He is a bad man. He kills people. But you understand his motivations. You might not agree with them, but you understand his motivations. And he wears a suit. He's got a beard. He's got a haircut. He's slick. He's cool. He's intelligent. He's much smarter than John McClane, if you think about it. But John's smarter in different ways, in more violent ways, in more American.
John's got the street
ways.
smarts to be able to cope with the situation as it's unfolding. Hans is obviously brilliant in terms of coming up with this idea in the first place. And the fact that they specifically rewrote part of the script so you could have that face-to-face confrontation between him and John McClane speaks to how wonderful a job Alan Rickman was doing.
Hey, pal, you out there?
Sergeant Al Powell and John McClane's chemistry, very, very good. And it's interesting that they don't talk face-to-face until the very, very end of the movie. They talk the whole time on radios.
It's fascinating that they really managed to build up a wonderful relationship between these two characters. And it really speaks wonderfully to the skills of both actors and the director to be able to get that right sort of chemistry with them just speaking to each other. This film is filled with so many tertiary characters who are still fantastically realised. You've got Argyle, you've got Ellis, you've got
Joe Takagi,
who's fantastic, and you wish you worked for a boss like that. So many of these characters, even if you're saying that they're stereotypes, they're so well crystallized into being recognizable characters, and they work so perfectly. It really is a perfect storm of great characters, great actors, a great script, even if they change the ending at the last minute, and really talented people working on the film in the first place to make it unlike anything else which had come before it.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
And I love the ending. I love the squaring off at that ending. Where he's got the pistol taped behind his back and he takes Hans out at the last minute, but Hans falls out the window holding onto the wife. And then that wonderful optical shot of Hans falling at the end is still so good.
Even just the simple trick of telling Alan Rickman, right, we're going to drop you on 3 and then dropping him on 2. Just to get a real expression on his face, which is perfect. That wonderful look of betrayal just as he falls, it works wonderfully and is the perfect cap to a perfect movie villain.
Well, I hope that's not a hostage.
So those are our thoughts on Die Hard, one of the greatest films of all time. What do you think about Die Hard? Is it your favourite Christmas movie too? Let us know in the comments below.
Don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to our channel for weekly vids, and we're out of here for now, but have yourselves
a very Merry Christmas.
Since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.